Hey everyone, it's Nick here. I've got another update for you guys of the Mid Motor Bandit project I've been working on. I know it's been a while since I've updated you guys on this car, but that's just because I've had a whole season of racing to work on this, to tweak it, and to try to get the most performance out of it. So yesterday was the last outdoor dirt race that I'm going to have for the season, so I figured it was a good time to wrap up how I feel about this car on outdoor dirt. Maybe go over some of the changes I've made to it over the season, give you guys some updates on it, and yeah, just go over how everything's been going. And then maybe look towards the future with carpet season coming up in a couple weeks. Let's get to it. Alright, so real quick, one thing I want to do in this video is go through the whole car from the front to back and show you guys all the option parts I've got in it. So starting on the front and the outside, I use TLR offset front wheels and I pair those up with team associated hexes. I do that to keep the car within the 250 millimeter limit for the car, and anything else you use, if you use associated wheels or any other offset thing, you're going to be over the width limit for the car. So this is really the only setup you can use and still have a legal car. The hexes themselves, these are the 6 millimeter offset hexes. They're still just a little too wide for dirt, but for carpet they'll be perfect. Next season for dirt, I'm going to switch to the 5 millimeter option, and that should be plenty enough to keep the car legal with the rules. These axles aren't quite long enough to go the whole way through the front steering knuckle here, so I designed and printed a spacer to put in there to take up the rest of that space, so that way when I screw the screw into the back of the axle, it doesn't pinch the bearings and lock everything up. Moving on, I use these Traxxas heavy duty front arms, and the only reason I use those is so I can use an aluminum aftermarket front caster block, aluminum for durability, and these hot racing ones have these extra mounting options for the camber link length, so that's nice. I pair those up with RPM steering knuckles here. Again, it's just another durability upgrade. And then finally I have all that held in place with these STRC hinge pins. They're nice because they're captured with a nut on the end and they can't back out. Now to make these STR hinge pins work with the HD front arm, you have to Dremel the front arm a little bit. So you can see I Dremeled them a little narrower. You'll have to do that. Moving on, these are shocks. These are TLR shocks from one of their buggies, one of their older buggies. I got these real cheap on RC Tech, so that's why I have them. The body here is a Raw Speed RS2 lightweight body for the Schumacher LD2. It's significantly lighter than the Bandit body, so that's why I run it. The top deck here I had to modify. That's why it's Dremeled out here, so the LD2 body fits nicer. If you're going to run a Bandit body, you don't need to worry about doing that. On the steering rack here, I have a Hot Racing aluminum steering rack. That's all driven by a Savox SC1258 servo, good reliable servo. Just a direct mount with the arm, the servo arm. I don't use a servo saver. The radio system, I use the Radiomaster MT12. The ESC and motor, I've got the Hobby Wing 10BL60 quick run censored motor, and that allows me to run a little bit of boost on this Trackstar Hobby King motor. It's a 10.5 turn motor that I bought years ago. Just enough power for loose outdoor dirt without being unmanageable. It's all powered by this Gens Ace Redline battery. This is the 4000 milliamp one. It's a low CG. It's only 150 grams. Nice lightweight battery. In the transmission here, I use the STRC. Well, no, I used to use the STRC top shaft. This is the Exotech RC top shaft, and this lets you run the associated spur gears and slipper setup. The stock Traxxas slipper is just really terrible slipper, so I always like to use the associated one. Inside the transmission, I think I mentioned this before, but I use the Traxxas 25 or something like that. You can't get it anymore, but it's the SRT ball diff. Moving on, these are some cheap hexes I got online. You can find these everywhere. They're super cheap. Pick your brand, whatever. Just find the cheapest you can get, and that's fine. These hubs are Hot Racing hubs. I got these because they have extra length mounting options. The rear wing mount here is a B6 rear wing mount. I know B6 isn't the most current car that Associated makes anymore, but you should still have no problem finding these. And then finally, Actually, not finally. This is second to last. This is a redesigned rear camber link mount. I made this longer so you have extra mounting options, and I redesigned it so that the sway bar mounts on the top. Finally, I want to finish up talking about these rear arm mounts. So in a previous video, I talked about the stock mounts. They let the arm wiggle back and forth no matter how tight you make these screws. So I redesigned them and printed my own. They have a flat edge here that sits flush against the chassis, the side edge of the chassis here, and it locks the whole thing in place so it can't move back and forth. And even though these are 3D printed, they're plenty durable. These are printed from a 72D TPU, so it's a rigid TPU, but it still has a lot of the nice qualities of TPU. So really durable. I've ran these for 6 or 7 races. They've taken a lot of hard hits and they've stayed together the whole time, so I'm perfectly happy with them, and they solved that one huge issue I was having with the car. So that's it for the car. I know it was quick, but that's it. Yeah. All right, so let's talk about how this car did over the whole season. You know, for the most part, it was really competitive. I had a lot of good finishes in club races this summer. I had 2 race wins, and those were 2 weeks in a row, so that felt really good to win twice with this car. Last year, when I was racing my TLR 22, I only won one race with that car, so this is already more successful than that for me. And then on top of those race wins, I had a whole bunch of podiums. I had a whole ton of seconds and thirds. So overall, I'm really happy with what I was able to accomplish with this car over the summer. Now, it wasn't all sunshine and roses. I've had my ups and downs with this car. I struggled a lot with some setup issues. I was running the car too low for a while, and that was giving me a lot of issues. So just as a hint, if you're going to build this car and run it yourself, and you're on outdoor dirt, try to keep it set up so that the arms are level. I know a lot of cars are designed to run lower ride heights, like the 20mm ride height that you'll see a lot of the pros run, or the 19 or even lower. When you run this car at those low ride heights, it just does not drive well. It does not hook up well. It's going to be a handful. I know it's counterintuitive to raise the car to get better handling, but when this car is around 25mm, it drives a whole lot better. It just hooks up a whole lot better. Another thing I kind of struggled with and experimented with trying to fix was the fact that the car was really hooked up on the rear end a lot of the times, and it would be really hooked up on the rear until it wanted to break loose and just lose all control. Even when I got that issue fixed and when it broke loose, it was still controllable. The rear end was just still too locked in place. Even with this last race where the car was the best it ever was, I still felt like I didn't have enough steering and the car still did not have enough rotation or corner speed. I think maybe that's partially or a lot due to the fact that I've got this stand-up configuration and all the weights shifted as far rear as possible. It's good for rear traction, but I don't think it's that great for a car that has a lot of corner speed. Even at my the track I race at, the outdoor dirt track, even when it's really loose there, some of the fast guys, two of the fastest guys who showed up all summer, one was running a B7D, which has, you know, that 5-gear laydown transmission that pushes the motor really forward. And the other really fast guy was running a TLR 22 5.0 with the laydown setup. So I'm thinking if I want to step up my game with this car and get more corner speed and go even faster, I need to ditch the stand-up and go to a more weight-forward setup. You know, I always raced on with a car like this at that track just because having that weight in the rear, it really makes the car feel comfortable and safe with that grip that you get. But I'm at the point now in my driving and what I want from a car that I don't think I can get it with this stand-up. But yeah, other than that, like I said, real good season and pretty happy with the car. And I can't wait for the next season because I'm going to go even faster. And yeah, so that's it for the season recap. Alright, like I said at the beginning of the video, yesterday's race was the last race of the season for me at Pit Stop Hobbies in Mount Joy, PA. It's an outdoor dirt track, like I've said in previous videos. It was a bit of a special race. Yesterday they glued the track surface, so the grip was really high, abnormally high. A lot of fun to run on a surface like that, but the tire wear, oof, that gets you. Glad that's only a special occasion thing and they don't do that every race. But yeah, it was a big race. It was the biggest turnout of the whole summer. The mod buggy class was stacked. There were 20 guys that showed up, and of those 20, I'd say at least 13 or 14 were all fast enough to make it into the A main, and a lot of the region's fastest drivers showed up. So really intense competition in the 2.0 buggy class that I was racing this in. And, you know, I'm happy to say that I think I raced my best race of the whole summer, and I did quite well with this car, so I ended the season on a really high note, and I'm happy. So the first qualifier, I finished 6th overall. The car drove great, I drove it great, and yeah, 6th overall was pretty good. The second qualifier wasn't as good for me. The car was a little faster with some setup changes that I had made, but I also made a couple mistakes driving and wrecked a few times, and so I didn't finish overall as well in the second round of qualifiers. But that 6th in the first round was enough for me to qualify straight into the A main in 8th place. So I just barely snuck in. That's the last spot before you have to bump in from the B main. So like I said, of the 13 or 14 guys who were all fast enough to make it into the A main, just qualifying straight into the A main at yesterday's race was a huge deal for me. I was really happy just with that. If that's where it ended, I would have still been plenty happy with how this car did. But it got even better. So in the A main, like I said, I started 8th place, and I made a couple more tweaks to the car to help get it a little faster. I was hoping to get a little more steering and a little more corner speed, and I did get maybe a little bit more, but still not as much as I would have wanted. Regardless, the car still drove amazing. It drove the best it drove the whole day, and I put in my best A main race of the whole summer, and I managed to work my way myself all the way up to 5th place. So, like I said, fastest drivers in the region were at the track. 13, 14 guys fast enough to make it into the A main, and you know, maybe 7 or 8 guys fast enough to win the A main. So for me, given that, I was really happy to finish 5th place with this thing. Super awesome performance out of myself and the car. So yeah, that's it for that final race.
Oh, we're good?
Nice Jason Davis, 12 at 5:18. Both Jason Adam in the 12. And see how the ace sort here does compared to that. Got everybody checking except for Don. There's Don. We're good to go, so I'm going to get you started for your next time by here.
Oh, sorry. Oh, what the hell? Oh, it is slick up here.
Tone, first person coming up.
Holy crap. Well, that sucks.
Bob Walker Jr. the third, first across the line.
Why Walker Jr. the third?
I like that one. I gotta use that.
That's funny. I keep getting loose over here. What the hell?
It's in the shade.
I know.
The first lap, we'll see how everybody starts.
Bullshit.
At the end. Bob had a 25.6, so we can obviously do better than that. Nick 26.3. Gary's 27. There's Zach's in 24. Thomas also 24, just a hair behind Zach. The two of them keep battling against each other. We'll see if Thomas can pull one out against Zach this time. Chris had a very good run there. Chris at 24.7. So the first lap is Zach, Chris, Thomas, and Don. Everybody spread out very nicely here. We'll see if we can keep this run nice and clean. Chris with a 24.7 and backing up with a 24.8. Chris now in the lead. Thomas is about a second behind on overall pace. Zach right behind that. Zach's on a 12 pace, just starting with the 13. Both Chris and Thomas in the 13 pace. Zach just bumped himself back to the 13 pace, and Thomas takes the lead now. Thomas just had a 24.5 that last lap. So everyone in this field is between a 25.4 and a 24.5, so less than a second per lap difference.
Yeah, that was a clip of me running in the second qualifier of yesterday's big race. I forgot to tell you guys I was going to show you that clip, but that's what that was. So you got to see it running, and you got to see how fast it drove and how well it drove. So I hope you enjoyed seeing that. Like I said, that was the last race for the season, so that's it for Outdoor Dirt. As I look forward, the next thing in a couple of weeks here is going to be carpet racing. I've got some exciting things planned for carpet racing, and I'll share those with you guys as I get to them. So be on the lookout in the future for updates on the car for carpet racing. And until then, you know, thanks for watching along. I hope you enjoyed this video. I know it was a little bit longer, but it's been a while, so I had a lot to catch up on. And yeah, do all the usual YouTube things, like, comment, share, subscribe, all that stuff. And have a good one. Thanks. Bye.